The most dangerous battle you'll ever fight may never involve a single word. It won't happen in a courtroom, a workplace, a classroom, or even during a heated argument. It begins quietly, inside the mind. Long before people defeat someone through force, they often defeat them through emotion. That is the hidden truth most people never realize. Your enemies don't win because they are smarter, richer, louder, or more powerful. They win because they recognize your emotional patterns before you recognize them yourself. The moment someone knows what makes you angry, insecure, defensive, or impatient, they gain an advantage that has nothing to do with physical strength. This is why some people stay calm, while everyone around them loses control. They understand that the first person to lose emotional control usually loses the entire psychological battle. Real power isn't always visible. It doesn't need shouting, threats, or endless arguments. It hides behind patience, silence, timing, and self-control. Many of history's greatest strategists understood this lesson well. They knew that controlling the mind is often far more effective than controlling the body. Modern psychology continues to support this idea, showing that emotional regulation, perception, and decision-making influence nearly every conflict we face, whether it's in relationships, business, friendships, or everyday conversations. Yet most people spend years learning how to respond to others instead of learning how to control themselves. That mistake makes them predictable, and predictable people are easy to manipulate. The good news is that this can be changed. In this video, you'll discover 7 powerful psychological principles that can help you protect your peace, sharpen your thinking, and stop handing control of your emotions to other people. These are not tricks designed to hurt others or play cruel mind games. They are strategies that help you stay calm under pressure, recognize manipulation before it works, avoid emotional traps, and become someone who is much harder to influence. Some of these principles are surprisingly simple, while others are rarely discussed, even though they can completely change the way you handle difficult people. As each lesson builds on the last, you'll begin to see why the strongest individuals are often the quietest, the most patient, and the least reactive. By the end of this video, you'll understand why emotional discipline is one of the greatest advantages anyone can develop, and how mastering your own mind changes the way other people respond to you. Make sure you stay until the very end, because the final principle ties everything together and may completely change the way you think about power, confidence, and influence. Welcome to Shadow Wisdom, where we explore psychology, human behavior, and the hidden patterns that shape our lives. If you're ready to strengthen your mind and see people more clearly than ever before, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and let's begin. Most people believe conflict begins the moment harsh words are spoken, or someone openly challenges them. In reality, that is only the visible part of the battle. The real conflict usually starts much earlier, inside the mind. Before a single argument takes place, people are already studying each other. They notice who gets offended easily, who becomes defensive after criticism, who cannot handle being ignored, and who feels the need to prove themselves every time their opinion is questioned. These small observations become valuable information. Once someone understands your emotional patterns, they no longer need to overpower you. They only need to guide your emotions in a direction that benefits them. That is why many psychological battles remain invisible. They happen through subtle comments, delayed replies, changing tones of voice, spreading doubt, or making someone question themselves. None of these actions look dramatic on the surface, yet they can completely change the outcome of a relationship, a workplace disagreement, or even a friendship. The greatest attacks are rarely aimed at your physical strength. They target your confidence, because a person who doubts themselves makes weaker decisions. They target your patience, because frustration causes people to make mistakes they later regret. They target your reputation, because once others begin questioning your character, defending yourself becomes exhausting. Most of all, they target your emotions, because emotions can either sharpen your thinking or completely cloud your judgment. This is why emotional awareness has become one of the most valuable skills in modern psychology. Every reaction you give tells a story about what matters to you. A raised voice can reveal insecurity. An instant reply can reveal desperation. Constant defending can reveal fear of judgment. Even silence can reveal confidence or uncertainty depending on why it is used. Human beings naturally search for patterns, and manipulators are especially good at finding them. They pay close attention to what makes people smile, what makes them angry, what makes them jealous, and what makes them feel respected. The more predictable your reactions become, the easier it is for someone else to shape your behavior without you even realizing it. This is why one of the greatest psychological advantages is becoming emotionally predictable to yourself, but difficult for everyone else to predict. You should know exactly how you want to respond in difficult situations, because that creates inner stability. At the same time, other people should never feel certain they can press a specific emotional button and get the response they expect. When your emotions are guided by your values instead of someone else's actions, you quietly take back control of every interaction. This brings us to the first principle. Never reveal your emotional trigger. Every person has emotional buttons. Some are obvious, while others remain hidden until the right situation appears. One person cannot tolerate criticism. Another fears rejection more than anything else. Someone else becomes defensive whenever their intelligence is questioned. Another feels deeply uncomfortable when they are ignored. These emotional triggers are part of being human, but they become dangerous when other people discover them before you do. Manipulative individuals rarely attack at random. They observe first. They notice how you react to jokes, disagreements, compliments, delays, or even simple differences of opinion. If criticism instantly makes you angry, they may criticize you more often because they know it weakens your judgment. If rejection makes you chase approval, they may become distant to pull you closer. If your ego depends on always being right, they may challenge your opinions simply to watch you waste energy proving yourself. If insecurity controls your decisions, they may create situations that increase your self-doubt. If fear guides your actions, they may use uncertainty to keep you emotionally trapped. None of these methods require physical force. They only require understanding human behavior. The fascinating part is that many people unknowingly reveal these triggers every single day. A small disagreement turns into a 20-minute argument because someone refuses to let the last word go. A single negative comment ruins an entire day because one opinion suddenly feels more important than dozens of positive ones. An ignored message creates panic because silence is immediately interpreted as rejection. Each reaction gives away valuable information. Every emotional outburst becomes another clue about how your mind works. This is why emotional discipline begins with self-awareness. Instead of asking why someone upset you, ask what exactly they touched inside you. Was it your pride, your fear of failure, your need for approval, your desire to be respected? Once you identify your own emotional triggers, you become far less vulnerable because awareness breaks the cycle of automatic reactions. The less people know about the emotional buttons that control you, the less power they have over your decisions. This does not mean pretending to be emotionless. It means refusing to let your emotions become someone else's tool. One of the simplest habits you can develop is learning to observe before reacting. Notice the situation. Notice your heartbeat. Notice the emotion rising inside you. Give yourself a few moments before responding. Those few seconds create space between feeling and action, and inside that space lies your greatest strength. A calm response often achieves more than an immediate emotional reaction because it is guided by choice rather than impulse. The second principle builds naturally from the first. Master strategic silence. Many people assume silence is weakness because they confuse it with fear. In reality, intentional silence is one of the strongest psychological tools available. Think about how uncomfortable silence feels during an argument. Most people rush to fill it. They explain themselves, defend their position, reveal extra information, or continue talking simply because they cannot tolerate the quiet. The person who remains calm while everyone else feels pressured often gains an unexpected advantage. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty encourages people to reveal more than they originally intended. During disagreements, endless talking can weaken your position because every extra sentence gives someone else more material to challenge. Strategic silence forces others to think instead of simply reacting. After an insult, many people immediately fight back because they believe staying quiet means accepting disrespect. But responding instantly often gives the other person exactly what they wanted, proof that they successfully controlled your emotions. Choosing silence in that moment does not mean accepting the insult. It means refusing to reward provocation with emotional energy. The same principle appears during negotiations. The first person who feels uncomfortable with silence often begins making unnecessary compromises. Skilled negotiators understand that silence is not empty. It creates pressure without aggression. It allows thoughts to settle. It encourages honesty because people naturally try to reduce uncomfortable pauses by speaking more. There is an important difference between avoiding conflict and choosing silence intentionally. Avoiding conflict comes from fear. It means refusing to address important problems because confrontation feels uncomfortable. Strategic silence comes from confidence. It means deciding that speaking immediately is not the best option. Sometimes the strongest response is waiting until emotions cool before discussing the issue. Sometimes the strongest response is saying only a few words instead of many. Sometimes the strongest response is allowing another person's behavior to reveal who they truly are without interrupting them. Silence is valuable only when it serves a purpose. It is not about disappearing from difficult conversations. It is about making sure every word you speak has value instead of becoming another emotional reaction. The third principle changes the entire dynamic between you and difficult people. Become emotionally unpredictable. Manipulative people rely on routines. They carefully study how someone reacts in familiar situations. If they know criticism always makes you defensive, they will criticize you whenever they want control. If they know praise makes you trust them too quickly, they will flatter you before making requests. If they know guilt always changes your decisions, they will constantly remind you of your responsibilities. Predictable reactions make manipulation easier because they remove uncertainty. Emotional unpredictability does not mean becoming inconsistent or dishonest. It means refusing to let old habits control every situation. Instead of reacting automatically, you begin responding intentionally. Consider someone who always becomes angry when interrupted. After recognizing this pattern, they decide to remain calm the next time it happens. The person trying to provoke them suddenly loses their advantage because the expected reaction never appears. Think about someone who usually explains themselves for several minutes after receiving unfair criticism. One day they simply smile, thank the person for sharing their opinion, and continue with their work. The conversation changes immediately because the emotional script has been broken. This is emotional discipline in action. It is not about hiding feelings forever. It is about deciding which emotions deserve expression and which ones deserve observation first. Breaking old patterns requires practice because the brain naturally follows familiar paths. The more often you pause before reacting, the easier it becomes to create new habits. Over time, people stop assuming they know exactly how you'll respond. That uncertainty protects your peace because manipulation depends on certainty. A person who cannot predict your emotional reaction cannot easily guide your decisions. Instead of reacting from anger, fear, pride, or insecurity, you begin responding from clarity. That single shift changes every conversation, every disagreement, and every challenge that follows. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing they must respond to every challenge that comes their way. They feel responsible for correcting every misunderstanding, answering every insult, winning every debate, and proving every critic wrong. At first, this sounds like confidence. In reality, it often comes from insecurity. A person who constantly needs to prove they are right slowly gives other people control over their time, emotions, and attention. Mentally strong people think differently. Before reacting, they ask themselves one simple question: is this battle worth my attention? That question changes everything because attention is one of your most valuable resources. Every argument costs mental energy. Every unnecessary conflict steals focus from something more important. Every emotional reaction leaves less energy for your goals, your relationships, and your peace of mind. Some people intentionally create conflict because they know it distracts others. They know that if they can pull you into endless arguments, they no longer have to improve themselves. Instead, they simply keep you busy defending yourself. This happens every day in workplaces, families, friendships, and even online. One negative comment can consume hours of someone's day. One rude message can destroy their mood. One unfair opinion can keep them awake all night. Meanwhile, the person who caused the conflict has already moved on. This is why emotional maturity is not measured by how many battles you win. It is measured by how wisely you choose them. Ignoring certain provocations is not weakness. It is strategic self-control. There is a huge difference between walking away because you are afraid and walking away because you understand the battle has no value. One decision comes from fear, the other comes from wisdom. Strong people recognize that not every opinion deserves a response. Not every accusation deserves an explanation. Not every insult deserves revenge. Sometimes silence protects your energy better than any clever comeback ever could. Think about someone throwing small stones into a lake. Every stone creates ripples, but the lake remains where it is. Now picture someone throwing stones into a tiny bucket of water. Every impact causes chaos. Your mind should become more like the lake. Calm enough that small provocations no longer disturb your entire emotional state. Energy management is one of the least discussed forms of psychological strength. Successful people carefully decide where their attention goes because they know attention shapes results. If you spend your entire day fighting distractions, you have little energy left for progress. The people who achieve meaningful goals are often the same people who refuse to waste themselves on meaningless conflicts. They understand that peace is not created by winning every argument. It is created by refusing to enter arguments that never deserved their attention in the first place. This naturally leads to another powerful psychological principle. Make people underestimate you. Modern culture encourages constant self-promotion. People feel pressure to announce every achievement, every future plan, every new skill, and every success before it has even happened. They believe appearing impressive is the same as being impressive. But psychology often works in the opposite direction. When people believe they fully understand you, they stop paying close attention. They become comfortable with their assumptions. They underestimate your abilities because they think they already know your limits. This creates an unexpected advantage. People often reveal more about themselves when they believe they are dealing with someone less capable than they are. They speak more openly. They become less careful. They show their real intentions because they no longer feel the need to hide them. This does not mean pretending to be unintelligent or lacking confidence. It means avoiding the need to constantly prove yourself. Quiet confidence is often stronger than loud confidence because it depends on reality instead of attention. There is no need to announce every move when your actions will eventually speak for themselves. Think about someone starting a new business. One person tells everyone about every idea before taking action. They seek approval, praise, and encouragement at every step. Another person spends months quietly learning, improving, and working without making announcements. When the results finally appear, they surprise everyone because nobody expected them. Surprise creates psychological impact. Expectations influence behavior more than most people realize. If people expect very little from you, they lower their guard. They stop competing as aggressively. They reveal information they might otherwise hide. They assume they are always one step ahead. That assumption becomes their weakness. Observing before acting is another part of this principle. Instead of entering every room trying to be noticed, spend time noticing others. Watch how people behave when they think nobody is paying attention. Notice who interrupts others. Notice who listens carefully. Notice who seeks attention. Notice who becomes uncomfortable with silence. Observation reveals patterns that endless talking never will. The person who speaks the least often learns the most because their attention remains focused on gathering information instead of broadcasting it. This quiet awareness becomes a powerful advantage in every part of life. As your awareness grows, another important lesson becomes clear. Control the story, not the argument. Many people believe the truth automatically wins if they simply explain it enough times. So they defend themselves repeatedly. They answer every accusation. They write long messages trying to correct misunderstandings. They repeat the same explanations again and again, hoping people will finally understand. Unfortunately, human psychology rarely works that way. People remember impressions more than explanations. They remember how someone consistently behaves over time, far more than they remember a detailed defense made during one emotional moment. This is why endlessly defending yourself can sometimes weaken your position. Every explanation invites another question. Every defense creates another opportunity for someone to challenge your words. Some people are not looking for understanding. They are looking for another reaction. The more you explain yourself, the more emotional energy you invest in changing opinions that may never change. Instead, focus on building a story through consistent behavior. If someone accuses you of being unreliable, become consistently reliable. If someone questions your honesty, continue acting with honesty every single day. If someone spreads false ideas about your character, let your actions quietly contradict those claims over time. Consistency has a unique psychological effect because it slowly replaces doubt with evidence. People eventually notice patterns. One explanation can be dismissed. 100 consistent actions become much harder to ignore. Remaining calm also shapes the story people remember. During conflict, emotional reactions often become more memorable than the original disagreement itself. Someone may completely forget what the argument was about, yet clearly remember who stayed calm and who lost control. Emotional stability communicates confidence without saying a single word. This is why people with quiet confidence often appear more trustworthy than those who constantly defend themselves. They understand that reputation is built over months and years, not during one heated conversation. Instead of chasing every rumor, they continue living in a way that naturally disproves it. The final principle ties all the others together. Make your mind difficult to read. Many people unknowingly give away far too much information. They immediately share every opinion, every future goal, every frustration, every disappointment, every fear, and every exciting opportunity the moment it enters their mind. While openness has its place in healthy relationships, unnecessary disclosure can create avoidable risks. Information is influence. The more people know about your emotional state, your expectations, and your future plans, the easier it becomes for them to shape your decisions or interfere with your progress. Not every opinion needs to be spoken. Sometimes keeping an opinion private gives you more time to observe how others truly think. When people do not know your position immediately, they often reveal their own beliefs more honestly. This gives you a clearer understanding of the situation before deciding how to respond. The same applies to future plans. Announcing every goal can create unnecessary pressure. It can invite unwanted criticism before meaningful progress has even begun. Strategic patience means allowing your work to grow quietly before seeking recognition. Delayed gratification plays an important role here as well. The mind naturally enjoys immediate rewards such as praise, attention, and approval. Sharing exciting news too early often satisfies part of that emotional reward before the real work is finished. As a result, motivation can decrease because the brain feels it has already received recognition. Waiting until meaningful progress has been made strengthens discipline because the reward comes after effort instead of before it. Emotional privacy also protects inner peace. Not every disappointment deserves public attention. Not every frustration requires an emotional reaction. Sometimes the strongest decision is allowing yourself time to understand your own feelings before inviting others into them. This creates emotional clarity instead of emotional confusion. Observation becomes easier when your mind is not constantly occupied with expressing itself. You begin noticing details other people overlook. You recognize changes in tone, patterns in behavior, hidden motives, and emotional shifts that once escaped your attention. As fewer unnecessary details about your inner world become available, other people find it increasingly difficult to predict your next move. Without predictable information, manipulation loses much of its power because those who seek control can no longer rely on familiar emotional patterns to guide your behavior. True psychological strength has never been about making other people feel small. It has never been about winning every argument, getting the last word, or proving that you are smarter than everyone else. Real strength begins the moment you stop allowing other people to control your emotions. That is the lesson hidden behind every strategy we've explored today. Emotional discipline, patience, awareness, and self-control are not just personality traits. They are powerful habits that quietly protect your peace in a world full of distraction, manipulation, and unnecessary conflict. The people who truly master these qualities rarely need to dominate anyone, because they have already achieved something far more valuable. They have mastered themselves. Take a moment to look back at everything we've covered. We learned that every psychological battle begins in the mind long before it becomes visible. We discovered that your emotional reactions can reveal more about you than your words ever will. We saw why protecting your emotional triggers makes you much harder to manipulate. and why strategic silence often creates more influence than endless arguments. We explored the importance of choosing your battles wisely, instead of wasting your energy trying to prove yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. We also learned that quiet confidence often creates greater impact than constant self-promotion, that your actions tell a stronger story than repeated explanations, and that keeping part of your inner world private makes it far more difficult for others to predict or control your next move. When these principles come together, they create a different kind of confidence. It is not loud. It does not seek attention. It does not depend on praise or approval. It remains steady even when others become emotional. It stays patient when others become impatient. It observes before reacting, thinks before speaking, and chooses peace over pointless victories. That kind of confidence cannot be taken away by criticism, rejection, or the opinions of strangers because it is built from within. Always remember this. The strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It is the one whose mind cannot be easily controlled. The moment you stop reacting to every insult, every provocation, and every attempt to pull you into unnecessary conflict, you stop handing other people the keys to your peace. And once your peace is no longer controlled by others, your decisions become clearer, your confidence becomes stronger, and your life begins to move in a completely different direction. Now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 7 psychological strategies made the biggest impact on the way you think? Share your answer in the comments below. Your perspective might help someone else see the situation in a new way. If you found this video valuable, take a second to like it and share it with someone who could benefit from these ideas. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden psychology behind human behavior, emotional intelligence, and self-mastery, make sure you subscribe to Shadow Wisdom and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Our next episode uncovers another powerful psychological principle that most people overlook, yet it quietly shapes the way others judge, trust, and respond to you every single day. You won't want to miss it. Until then, stay calm, stay aware, and keep strengthening the one thing no one should ever control: your mind.